Hello, everyone, and welcome to. I need to adjust that. I just noticed something, but in any event, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back for those joining us uh, from the gaming stream, and welcome for those just joining us for the coding stream. We are, well, like I said, we are going to be continuing our game development project. We're going to see if we can do some testing on one of the core patterns that we want to use. I do see that Tatum and I think it was Tyler have joined us already. Hello, folks. Welcome, welcome. Let's check in with the kitties, though, here. We do have Ember in her spot across from the keyboard. Generally, that's where she is. Sometimes she'll go to other spots, but that's kind of her place. Sammy is near the window. Briefly, at least. Wonder why she was passing through. But yes, coding stream. So last time, this is where we were at. Hey there, Luca. Welcome, welcome. So we have our little homing projectiles. One of the things that I'm going to work on, I may have to work on it off stream because I got to do some research for it, is the collision logic. So you can see some of the ones on the lower right there are getting stuck. And they're having trouble spawning. Part of this issue is that about once a second, like 60 plus things are coming back. And let's see. Hey there, Luca. I don't know if it'll be multiplayer in the future there, Tatum. That's a later question. We're getting some of the core behaviors done first. While it would be, if I was setting out to make a multiplayer thing, that's one element. Ah, okay. But so one of the things is getting the collision logic working so that it is not so harmful. It's if we remove the core physics handling, like them bumping into stuff, and instead have a less frequent sort of drift away from each other kind of logic, we might be able to get a greater efficiency. There are claims that folks can get like 500 things on screen at once, which, to be fair, that's kind of where we are right now. Let's see, once a second. Let's see where we were. Blob spawner was going at what? 30 a second. And the homing mouse was going at 30 a second. So every second, 60 things. Which means math. About 9 seconds would get us that 500. And not necessarily clear enough of it out. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I think if we end up changing the core physics handling for them, we can exceed that and potentially get some of the behavior that we want, if there isn't a true core collision. We'll see. Okay. Let's get this down to a reasonable number again. So that we don't have to worry about it going haywire. It is not my it is not the actual heartbeat. maybe in the future. Ember is across from the keyboard there. You can see her on camera right now. Sammy is on my lap, so I'd have to guess if anybody's on the bed, it's Mason or Sherbet. But I didn't see him when they were on the multicam. We don't have an official name for the game yet, Luca. At the moment, it's Nyanite Survivors is what I'm calling it as a project. Survivors because I'm following the questionable trend of prefixing or suffixing a name with its game inspiration. Hey there, Tass. Well, one of my mods just swung through the same channel. You are in the widescreen view there, Claire? Widescreen view is often less populous. Sammy's getting intensive back scratches. Okay, so one of the things that we want to do is in our game script. Right now we have our physics process. This is another thing that we could probably adjust to only happen, to happen less frequently, let's say. We could use this delta to limit it to, like, fractions of a second. Is it not? Are you not seeing Ember there? That would be odd. Because she's like dead center. If you're in the widescreen, she's in lower left. But you also might be behind a little bit then, Claire. Because if there's on the broadcast, it's definitely Ember there. Yeah. Okay. So we don't want this to be in the frame update. In fact, we don't want all of this stuff to be... in fact, none of this should be in frame update. We don't want it to update only on screen update. That can get clunky. No worries, Claire. Tyler. Okay, so... Okay, we want this to be... maybe 10 times a second. Let's limit this to 5 times a second. When did I start coding? The game we've started more than a month ago now. We haven't been doing it as much each week. Coding in general, much longer than that. But coding is one of those things you learn by doing. You want to learn to code, you just start coding. That's very weird. Did I break it? Oh. Oh, and I think I learned the syntax for a return on a function. So we'll also get that rolling. So float is equal to 0. We don't care. There will only be enough physics update. There will be at most 5 a second. They're not going to make it exactly. They're spawning too close. That's weird. They should be spawning out of sight. Oh, no. They are spawning out of sight. This is sight. I've just got the camera zoomed out. Hey there, Rune. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So now we go in and we see if this helps. Let's put 29 or 30 of them at once. And we will put 29 groups of these. You recall, or if you're new to this, last time we changed it so that you have groups and you have count. When you have groups, it will be a number of... So if I have count, it's like fire 3 of them. If I have groups, it would be like fire 3 groups of 3 of them. The other advantage of groups is that each of them will calculate its targeting independently. So I can have things like a whole bunch of projectiles that home in on their own targets instead of each of them selecting the same target. Okay, yeah. The physics collision is definitely creating a problem. We will be looking into adjusting that. As you can see, we're losing frames here. Hey there, is it Chow or Cho or... And we'll also have to update our map updating logic here. Yeah, if I move it away from the intrinsic physics collision stuff, I can probably get it working better. So you see it's cleaning up now because a lot of the things that are spawning are getting pulled off the screen and wiped out as a result. Give you a better example of what's actually going on here. We put it down to just 1. So you can see, we can see a lot fewer of them. They're spawning way off of screen at the moment. Well, noticeably off screen. And if I keep moving, we won't get laggy. But if I hold still, yaw. Okay. How it is. this is a problem set. So they finally noticed, and they're starting to move because the ones at the edge started to move. We'll see if I can find a pattern that I can use to fix that. I think I have one. Or at least I think I found one. I might have to look it up again. We'll see. You can fire off a suggestion if you like there, Luca. Oh, man. Hate that. No. That's not bad. That's not bad. Okay. So for now, we're going to put it in frame updates because it doesn't need to happen on target. So what we're going to do is movement dot new tricky. We would have to completely redo the spawner. So what I want to test is right now, if you watch, you can't really tell too much, but each of these little mice is selecting a target and moving towards it. Anything they collide with, they remove. This is not end state logic or anything like that. But how they do that is we have, let's look at this one. So we have our group modifiers, our count modifiers. Our position says spread them out. So they fan out. And our movement starts out as saying, if you don't have anything, move in a random direction. And then, if there are no monsters, target a random direction. If there are monsters, target one of them. And then home in on that target. So we're going to remove home in on that target. And instead, we're going to switch it for straight line. Here, movement. Straight line. So we save that, and now the mice should just fan out. Now, they're fanning out in small groups. What I can do instead now is, with the mouse, instead of it being 29 groups, it will be 29 count. So this is with 29 count in a spread moving in a straight line. So what I want to test is changing this on the fly. So effectively, what I'd like to do is switch back and forth between this spread and the homing shots before. And we'll see how that do. Kind of hypnotic, though, isn't it? So now we're getting that latency, or that lag, really. If I start moving, we will start to get things being knocked off the screen to the above, which frees it up. We look at the 2D, this blue area around the screen is where projectiles and monsters can't be. They get removed. So as soon as something hits that, they go away. You can see it's about one of these boxes on all sides. They don't need to be that far, but it ensures that there's plenty of room in the spawn path, this green line, for things to appear. Could still narrow that down more. It already is narrowed down, I should say. This green line isn't actually where it is. We programmatically set that. The pink line is how far the screen actually extends. This is where you can see around the character. Okay. So we need to reconstruct the spawner. Go into our script for the startup. I do have a Discord there, Luca. You do have to be let in. No worries, Donna. It's in general. It's just avoid any excessive spam, especially repeated things. You want to applaud someone or something like that, you can, do it a couple of times and then you have done it. But enough said about that now, Hey there, PSS. So in the ready, we do the initial attachment of the spawner to the player. Attached to. Okay. That's so it updates its position. Okay, yeah. So we create it, we tell the thing that that's what it's attached to, and then we hook it to the player. And then during the physics update, we move the spawner. We're not at a bug at the moment. What we're doing right now is trying to think through a clean way of recreating the bullet spawner such that its movement changes. The movement of the thing it spawns changes. Spawner. So it has movement and position modifiers. We need to change these things. They are exported. Yeah, they're exported. So we should be able to mess with that. We should be able to mess with that. In order to do that cleanly, we need to be able to get some packed scenes. We can change these pretty freely. So let's start with that. We're going to start with group modifiers and count modifiers. So in our physics process, spawner, spanwer. Our movement. So array of integers. I did that. Of integers. No worries there, Tyler. Game is not available to play at all yet. We are still in the the earliest of stages here. Okay, so random int range from 1 to, say, 3. I think that's inclusive. Number of modifiers, do this. Hey there, Drogo. It's like I'm missing some text flowing by here. Okay. Thank you, Drogo. Thank you. Fires.append. Rando. Randi range 1 to 3. 0 to 3. Yes, Tyler? I neither support nor am against furries there, Tyler. To each their own. I recall seeing a scale once. It was a degrees of furry. Drogo has found my Twitch stream as well. On the one end, you have the anime side of it, which is usually like nekomimi, cat ears, effectively, where the characters will often have either an additional pair of animal ears, or kimono mimi, as you would, an additional pair of animal ears, and sometimes a tail. And then as you slide to the other side, you'll get things like this, where there are no human ears, and you steadily gain more animal features. The common in what people commonly see as furry is more towards, like, it's not towards the rightmost edge, because the animal features are usually kind of not fully animal features. Sometimes you get a lot more human feature. This has been your arbitrary educational moment. My favorite cat, I don't really have a favorite amongst them. That's why I've limited myself to like 5 of them, because it's easy to give them all attention. I do. Here, let me zoom in for you folks. See? The Nano Core. No worries, Luca. Thanks for swinging through. Is there a way to flush the array? Don't really need to. Spawner dot count modifiers is equal to count modifiers. Spanner. Okay, so like upwards of I want to make this less often. We'll put another variable up here. Time since weapon update. equal to 2. Then do these things. Set that to 0. How much do we talk on Discord? We don't talk super frequently. It's much more, if somebody starts a conversation is likely to follow. Hey there, Gojo. We work with what we got there, Dana. We work with what we got. You learn. Else. Oh, nope. That one. Equals delta. Copy that. Tile map, spawner path, weapon. Okay, so this randomizes the count and group modifiers. Well, we're about to see if I broke it or not, Daniel. Is not working. Is not working. So first, we're going to see if we ever get here. We did. So we step over these and we look at spawner. And we look at group modifiers, which should be count modifiers. Yup. Count modifiers. We should be going through this. Oh. That's why. Can I make the projectiles faster? Yes. That's actually something I'll be able to add to the randomization here. That'll be easier there, Tyler. That will be easier. Doing pretty good there, Arrow. Gojo, Newt is the name. Mechanist is a title, so it's the name is Newt. Okay, that's why. That's why. Because we're not messing with spawner. We're messing with... Where is it? There should be a bullet spawner. Ah, okay. We're gonna do bullet spawner there. Bullet spawner. So then we can take bullet spawner. Do that. Hey there, Barbed Wire. Welcome. And Sapphire. Sorry, I'm falling behind here, folks. Doing good, Sapphire. Doing good, Sapphire. We are doing our first day of two-part streaming. So, as some of you saw, uh, we had a game stream earlier today. We played some Fruit Mountain, and now in the evening, we are playing. We're not playing. We're coding. Okay, so bullet spawn. So now we should see a change to the number of mice every 2 seconds. Yep. So we can see the different clustering of them going out. Okay. Let us change that to 0 to 3 as well. I play neither of those, Gojo. I only ever played Fortnite when it was initially released, and it was a tower defense game. Okay, so now we're going to have... We're going to change our speed modifier here. This is a little trickier, since we know only the third speed modifier can be changed. Modifier speed 2. That's it. I don't know what the first word is, but it's like... yeah, this is purely testing barbed wire. Projectiles are a bit big. I can scale them down eventually. But they're about that size for as far as like visual detail. The number of them is way high right now. Easy, let me translate. Deep L. Doesn't seem accurate. I have no idea what that translates to, Gojo. And I try to make it a habit of not saying something unless I can translate it. Ooh, rice and meatballs. That actually sounds pretty good, Dave. Ooh, random float range between 48 and 192. Two. I don't seem to be changing speed much. First modifier to speed should be 0, 0. Yeah, their speed isn't really changing. But That should be a substantial change to speed. So if we look at bullet spawner, movement modifier speed. So 2 is currently 96, and we're going to set it to something from 48 to 192. So we step over, look at bullet spawner again. This did not change. Oh, let's try an int. Yep. Now you can see them changing their speed. All right, so this was part of the testing that I was thinking of here. So the next is swapping the modifier out. Modifiers to equal to load. Then range 0, 1. Else. This is not actually how the code will work. This is brute force testing code. Okay, every 2 seconds it will randomize its movement speed, the number of projectiles, and whether it moves in a straight line or homes. 1, 2, change. Let's make this a little more apparent by taking our blob and cutting it down to no count modifiers. So you can see the spreads there. Okay, so what we've demonstrated with this is that on the fly we can change the way the projectiles work. This is one of the core things we're trying to do with the game, is make the weapons modular. So how it could happen is that you keep upgrading a projectile and say, like, okay, this time I'm going to increase the speed or something like that. That one, Dana, is Ember. She is a diluted as far as her coloration. She's got her little pale orange ear, her stripy back, and her white socks and belly. We should be able to spot Sammy here. Oh, wow. Sammy's over on the shelf. She is on the 4th camera for you. We can currently see 4 cats. That's right, Barbed Wire. The entire group of projectiles have the same speed. So when they're sent out, they all share that speed. So the behavior that we're seeing is random target, then random mob. Those aren't changing. One of the elements that's changing is, do they move in a straight line towards what their target was? Like wherever they're aiming, they keep going that way. Or do they veer towards their target? Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Concept proven. So all of that can go away. Pull the bullet spawner from there. The one on camera is currently Ember. Okay, so now we should be back to just the crazy spread shot here. Yep. It is Ember, like a, you know, the cooling ashes of a fire kind of ember, or depending on your interpretation, the flickering sparks off of, say, like a fire. So with an E instead of an A. Okay. Yeah, so this is a hyperbolic case. It will never actually do that. Or at least it's unlikely that you would reach that point early. But all right, modular movement is in place. We don't have a lot of examples, but it's in place. We have projectiles. Eventually, we're going to need a catalog of, like, movement types. We're going to need a catalog of positions, of targeting, those kind of things, so that we can actually line that up. What if just random thought here? We can definitely do the all, like, in all directions. So we'll deviate and show you that. Go to position modifier, spread shot, 360. 360 degrees. Very modular system. That's exactly what we want. Yeah, there's just not enough. If there were more of them, it would go all around. That would technically be a different type of movement. So this is meant to be a cone. So I could also do this as a 45-degree cone, a tight cone. Yeah, it's very slowly smearing apart because it's much narrower. I do intend to update this a bit, but that's for later. That's for later. All right, so we need better collision logic. In general, you lose if a monster touches you, you start losing health. And if your health hits 0, you lose. We're just, if you look at the upper left corner of the screen there, this is all like early prototyped kind of stuff. So nothing is really as it's supposed to be yet. It should be 100. The edge of your, if you have enough of a bezel or a bevel or a phone case, it might be covering the 1. But if you look, the number drops if these little guys touch me. Just mechanical testing. So if we look at movement, movements don't have a physical form. Yes, but eventually there will be so many enemies that you can't just run. That all comes down to how fast I make them spawn, you know? How fast and how many, kind of thing. So what we want is that movement should happen like we don't really need to move and collide. That's pretty much how it works, Dana. Is over time there are more and harder creatures. The blobs and the mice and all of that, those are placeholders for now. Like, I'm still going to keep and use the sprites. It's just that they're not all going to be blobs and they're not all going to be mice kind of stuff. Hey there, Marcus. SCP fan, huh? Okay, okay. So this will be slightly different. We have a our objects are physics bodies. We're coding a game, Marcus. Right now, I'm puzzling through how to have an alternative. She's looking in my general direction, but for the most part, her eyes are closed. She's snoozing. So what I'm getting at is that we don't want to rely on the built-in Godot physics. That's starting to cause problems. What we want instead is for the objects to be able to glide around each other. I think that's where we need to get. I've seen some tutorials on the thing, but the knowledge hasn't set yet. So if instead of colliding with non-players, indeed, we can see 4 of them currently. There are 5. Sherbet is not visible. He might be a little to the right of... Let's see, which screen are you in? He might be a little to the right of the 5th camera. But it's hard to say. He could be anywhere. But we have Ember, then Sammy, then Mason, then Sky, as far as the tall form stream is. So we could give movement objects. Movements are nodes, right? Yeah, they extend node. Hey there, Jabanyan. Welcome. Well, there's plenty of cats to be found on this stream. Hey there, Sarah. How we do? How we do? Let's look at the objects a little bit. Raycast 2D. Can't mess with it there. Let's go into a function and just mess around a little bit. So we want the parent object to have the raycast, but let's look at our Okay, we have a default mob body. Okay, we can run with this. We can run with this. So what if we add... Okay, we're gonna spread it along. Okay, by default, they're... walls, players, enemies, objects. And it is an enemy layer. I mean, by default, I am. But it's subtle. See if I can properly demonstrate here. So, smile. Not smile. Do these too. Teeth. Okay, so the raycast needs to look for the same things. That the collision layer is in for its main body. That does sound cute. That does sound nice there, Tyler. It is interesting seeing the things that have been developing in modern parlance. All right, Marcus, thanks for swinging through. Oh, okay. Well, if you decide to stay, great. But I would suggest sleep when you need to. Otherwise, it'll catch up to you. Okay, so we need the raycast to... It's going to go from its 0 position, essentially its local position. And it's going to go forward based on its movement. So it's going to rotate with the direction of the creature. So I don't need to worry about the target position so much. What we're going to do is we're going to adjust the velocity accordingly. Oh, we could make it a movement type. Yeah, we could make it a movement type. So so what I'm getting at is we want things like blobs to try to navigate around obstacles like each other. So I could just put that on the blobs and on monsters in general. Yeah. That way we don't have to mess with the core mob body. Well, we can use it. We can still use it, but we'd have to adjust it accordingly. Let's put that. Enabled, it excludes parent. We get folks from all over the place. We do. Thinky. We'd only have the mob body. If the what if in the movement object do we put core movement? Node 2D. What's up, Tyler? So we changed this to a node 2D. It doesn't have a physical form, but we can roll with that still. Could add a scene for it, but then we'd have to adjust how we're doing it. That's pretty much the pattern for this kind of game. It's when a creature dies, it has a chance to drop essentially a point. And if you pick up enough points, you get an upgrade. Repeat. All right, Yuki, thanks for swinging through. Interesting. Small world, isn't it, Dana? Sherbet is passing through behind me, looking for attention. Nothing to be sorry about, Tyler. I'm just saying that that's kind of how these games go, not that you should have known. If The end of this kind of game is usually either you lose, you play as long as you can, or just as often there's like a boss that appears after a period of time, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, depends on which instance. Like Deep Rock Survivors, the Deep Rock Galactic spin-off, has much shorter, like multiple levels in a row, but it culminates in a big boss fight in each one of them where the goal is beat the big boss and then leave that part of the level. But frequently in this kind of game, there is an endless mode, where it's just how long can you go? What if in function ready array dot to vector 2.0. That's convenient. That is a convenient way of saying 0, 0. This should work. Tell me more about this raycast. We do physics body 2Ds. That might be what we want to roll with here. Wouldn't be in move that we would do this. So what we've got here is a fundamental change to the way she is repositioning for max comfort. We've got this non-trivial change to the way that we want to handle movement. So it's not really the movement object that that cares about the ray. It's an individual movement object. So effectively, some of the movement patterns will think of moving in this fashion. But this is the tricky element, because I need to make sure that move and collide doesn't actually cause a collision here. Oh, we want to mitigate it. We want to mitigate it. Is that the Hebrew language iteration of uwu speak? You, bro? I don't know. Maybe that's how you actually spell it in the appropriate pronunciation. If so, my mistake. Okay. So how would we do this? We would want it to be the last movement. It needs to be the last movement template so that it adjusts. All right. Okay, so each of these has a body. That's one of the things we're looking for. It doesn't actually collide, it's looking for other mob types. Ideally, it will avoid its own parent, but the problem is, I think that needs to be the direct parent. Oh, boy. If I can do a raycast, then what I can do is come up with like movement alternatives, so that if it wants to move in a straight line towards the target, but there is something that's in the way that it would bump into, like a fellow monster, that it tries to veer its movement off. And if we do that, we can avoid having to use monster-to-monster collisions, because we don't actually care that a blob bumps into another blob. We just don't want them overlapping. Which could include things like, if there's another monster in your way, directly in your way, and you can't avoid bumping into a monster, just stop and wait. Or in some cases, shove them out of the way, kind of thing. How to do. How to do. Huh. I did not know that word. I mean, it isn't shocking. I'm not familiar with that language at all. What to do? We put this together. I could put it on the mob body. Like the core mob body. I think those have... Yeah, mob body has something, so that's the parent object. And we have a mob body, so we could get its raycast. Yeah. So we go into the mob body. We're going to add a raycast to it. And for now, we'll do 1. Oh, no, wait. 1, 0. And by default, a wall is a good collision, but we're going to want to be able to add other collisions here. So then each creature can change its raycast to be a different mask. Bullet spawner in that anymore. No, we want mob body. There we go. Didn't change the script. Okay. Body, that's sprite. These are all things that will get set by a template. Cast 2D, and then if we go to we need to set this in the ready. Ah, okay. Well. Sign main. Should be what I'm looking for. Not ideally what I'd want. Because those are set in template. And I don't want to have to go in and set the movement rays in every mob. That would be silly. So I think doing it this way is probably the best, because none of the individual mobs need their ready function, or they should not. Okay, so we have a main movement ray. So if they have a mob body, they should be able to get access to main movement ray. So if I go into here, that's just a character body 2D. And I don't want it to be just a character body 2D. I want it to be a mob body. A semi-decent mechanic? Probably not a lot. a great deal of the frame of a nanotype is generated by the nanofluid that flows through them. It's sort of like when people grow an organ out of like a protein scaffold or something like that, you know? So I need to revise some of the logic here because calculate target says character body 2D, but that's not actually what I want. Mob bodies are character body 2Ds. Like, they are, that's what their base type is. But script-wise, they extend it. So what I want is that movement templates should take mob bodies, because that will give me a movement array. And that's what I want so that I can have them do like avoidance movement instead of actual collision movement. Then I can make it so that mobs don't collide with other mobs. They don't physics collide with other mobs. The ray that they cast does, but they don't need to do like bump movement. They'll just say like, hey, if I'm overlapping and my movement vector takes me into one of them, don't, you know, instead just sit there or try to veer around them or something like that. Effectively, if I cast a ray forward and that ray intersects something, then my direct path of movement will probably bump me into something. The classic dinner table dilemma, Marcus. If you bring up, what was it, religion and or politics, it won't go well. So let's cause the problem so I can show you what we're noodling on here a little bit. Because I may have to take some time tomorrow to try to get a relatively complex solution in, but I'd probably take the time tomorrow because I'd need to look some stuff up to do it. And, you know, not really the stream content target is let's look up a bunch of tutorials and discussions if we can avoid it. But that is also, as a coder, something that you should be perfectly comfortable doing, is look up things, see what people are talking about in that kind of scenario, and see if you can understand their solutions. So we have a main movement ray. So now we're going to look for movement template. We're going to take a mob body here. Just so. And the target object should almost... No, target object is an object. It is not a mob body necessarily. But the thing to move is a mob body. Yes. remove the template, set target. Yeah. So home to target, update direction, which it calls itself. Okay, good. Body, my body, and random direction. Layer. Okay, did I break something? Nope, seemingly not. Okay. So what? Okay, so now that I have it as a mob body, I can have a movement type, a movement template that is specific to accessing the ray on the mob body and setting it to a particular direction. So what I'm looking at now, can't really see it. I wonder if we can show it. Okay. Oh, we need to rotate the collision shape too. So that's part of the problem with the mice. The collision shape isn't rotating. Good to know. So, body. Glad I checked that. Check now mouse body. I wonder. Okay. Body, sprite, movement, type, modulated color. Hey, Marcus. Hey there, Colin. bodies are character body 2Ds. Template is a resource which has body type and modulated color. Body type and modulated color. No, my next live will be on Friday. And we're going to start with a game again. Earlier in the day, and then we'll have coding in the evenings like this. I could add a collision bubble here to make it like... But the individual bodies could have multiple collision bubbles. All right. Catch you later, Tyler. Well, Drew, if you want to raid, that's just fine. It's always something that can be good. But it ultimately depends on if your audience would find this kind of thing entertaining. Yeah, so if I do the collision shape here, no, I can't do that here. Because in the template, I just set its body object. Okay, so it needs to be in the individual one that it handles that. Oh. Yeah, it's in ready that the movement ray gets set. How are we going to do this? I do that. Because if I go into projectile mouse, I would like to set in ready like particular variables. If you think folks might like it, then, give it a try. That it's ultimately down to what your audience likes. So I can't use ready for this unless I do a parent chain. You know what? I haven't tried this. Let's... debug. So this should spam like crazy. Then if I go in here... It do be like that sometimes, Colin. I mean, stream shouldn't be impacted by viewership. More the site would be impacted. But so far, I've never seen a stream that is slammed by number of people. Over here. Just seeing mouse body rate. Okay, that makes sense. I had to check. It overrides. That makes sense. Which prevents me from doing something like this properly. His body and sprite, though. Yeah. So what if in mob body it also no, but that's a mouse projectile. Well, do what you feel is right. I won't say no to a whole lot more eyes on my channel, but you know your viewership better. So mob body is character 2D. Mob body does not have any of its exports visible here. Yeah. It's unfortunate. But why not? Well, So mouse projectile is a mob body. It extends it so it has those properties. Which means in theory it should have the same objects on it, right? Yeah. Oh. As movement, which doesn't really need to be an export to my understanding. Let's do a quick test on that. Okay. I keep mistaking export as exposed, but that's not correct. Export means it's exposed in the editor. So if I look over here, these are exports. Body, sprite, mob pool type on the mob body class. Yeah, this is just a character body 2D. It's not the mob pool type itself. If I could attach it, then we'd be set. Problem being that I don't have that real freedom right now. So what I'm trying to do is get access. Fall in London? I haven't heard of Fall in London, barbed wire. I'm trying to get access to this raycast object as a universal of a mob body. What do you do your donations through there, Drew? Because I know YouTube buffers that kind of thing. Like, it doesn't hit you, but if you use something like Stream Elements, I know the PayPal process can wreck you. All my stuff is through like Patreon and Coffee and YouTube. Okay, so I don't think I can get that here. Coffee is KO-FI. It's kind of like a lighter Patreon. You don't really see a lot of muds anymore there, barbed wire. How odd. I don't understand why that would cost you anything, though. If you're using your own mechanism. Like, if it's to your detriment, why would you make it an option? Just trying to suss this out. Yeah, okay. Let's reconsider this whole thing. The mob body doesn't really care about a raycast. Like, it itself as an object does not care about that. Instead, it would be like a movement template that cares about that. So like move in straight line or something like that. Those could, but don't right now. I could make one that does. And since it would be part of that object itself, it would have access to those raycasts. Okay, let's do that. Oh. Just a moment. that kind of thing tends to become a channel meme, you know? It was a thing, things went really weird. And now it's kind of a, sometimes those things become kind of an inside baseball. People use it as a way to show, I've been here for long enough that I understand what's going on, you know? You know, I was here back in the day when we blew up his speakers. Movement template inherits a node 2D. That means it has spatial awareness. And then when we're creating a movement object, but we don't actually attach them to the movement is the trick. Welcome back, Dana. Amusing, though. Okay, this still won't work. The movement object becomes a child. And movement could be made an actual thing. If we do some movement, 2D, we put it there, then we're going to attach a script. Called a class that extends node 2D. Okay. So now when I create a movement object, it has an associated scene. So then if I add a child node of a raycast 2D, that movement could then pass in the raycast into each movement template. All right, Dana, thanks for joining us. It still feels real kludgy. Real kludgy. Oh. Okay, no, we don't need that. So what if instead of that, what we do is, since body to move is a mob body, the ray trace could still be on the mob body, and the mob body could have set whether it uses the ray trace or not, and it could do the move and collide or move and slide or whatever I want it to be. Yeah. because then I can actually have it be like a toggle on the mob, is to say, do I avoid colliding with this type kind of thing? Yeah. We're going to think on this a little bit more when we get back from a break. If you folks have not already and like what you see and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, subscribe, all that goodness. There's a lot of good buttons down there below the stream. Consider pressing them. In the meantime, quick break. I will be back in a little bit. All right, getting settled back in. Just a moment. Okay. because movement templates don't have a parent object. But do I actually need to constantly mark it? Don't think I do. So let's make a new movement template. These are movement templates. Movement. Attach that script, attach another one. It inherits movement template. I think class name really matters there. Meow Mix, this current stream is largely kind of chatting and coding. We're making a game. But that's large. A majority of the stream is just conversation in the like. Yeah. We're gonna stop. Go to movement template. There's also cats. There's also cats. It's just a node. Let's never get anybody in the play area. Getting randomly distracted as far as what I'm trying to address here. As a collision shape 2D is equal to $sign. And shape 2D. Not ideal, but we're rolling. we rotate this? Yeah. Okay, that's closer. We derotate this. Oh. Yep. Those. Closer, but it's off by like 45 degrees. Well, that's not right. Oh. Oh. In radians. Okay. We did this before. We messed this up before. Radians. 90. There we go. Now their collision shape will be more accurate. These little blue bubbles around them are not normally visible. This is debugging. Okay, so we fixed that. Now we need to look at... Hey there, Fraggy. Welcome. Make a new movement template. We're going to call it Avoid Obstacles. Have that. Avoid obstacles. I think that actually matters. Okay. So then we need calculate target and move. Does not care about target. Avoid obstacles, move to home. Same way that move to target. Avoid obstacles doesn't care about calculating a target. It only cares about moving. And it doesn't actually care about the targeting at all. It only cares about the body to move's velocity. Yes, 2D. I don't think this will actually work the way I want it to. Because a raycast is a constant object. Apply with areas and bodies with a collision mask. We would want to exclude the mob body's ID. Okay. So we exclude the collision body that is the mob. We set the mask according to the mob body's type. Is tricky. Figured via code. Okay. We can probably encapsulate this in a function, but you can create a bit mask for... Yeah, so it's 0, 1, 2, 3, that kind of thing. Okay. So what we're going to do is do a from to and kind of fire the ray forward some distance, some multiplier of how much they would move. And say, is it going to intersect our target? Or is it going to intersect an obstacle? If it's going to intersect an obstacle, then we're going to try to move around it. But we'll need to figure out how to do that. Trying to get Sammy used to having her paws touched so that she's more acclimated to the idea of her claws being trimmed. We're still miles away from that with Sherbet, but since Sammy is rapidly becoming a lap cat, it's easier to get that opportunity. Okay. We don't actually need to exclude our main body, because what we can do is say that hit from inside is false. Because the mob's body should always, its 0, 0 should always have a little bit of clip under it. Yeah. Should we do? What should we do? It's not a bad thing that we're reaching the end of the stream as far as this, because I really do need to rethink some of the structure that I'm working with as a result of this. Kind of a problem. Is I could set what is considered an obstacle in the mob template. And then the movement object could be given the obstacles, or could extract them from its parent. And then if there are obstacles, the movement object can do the ray tracing collision logic. So, like, a projectile generally has no obstacles. It doesn't care. Because I think avoid obstacles, I don't want to have to add that to every monster. I feel like we can have a collision mask for what it considers an obstacle. Yeah. We may have to address this next time, folks. I think we're gonna wrap up there before I spend more time staring at the screen in relative silence. Oh dear. Oh dear. So where we got to today is we've verified that the modular movement works. So we can change that on the fly. Number of projectiles, how the projectiles move around. Those could be changed in real time, effectively. Even technically, individual projectiles could in turn have their movement changed. Though that's a little different because that's not when they're originating. But there's nothing stopping us from doing that kind of thing. That's what we wanted to have. Great. But now I need to have movement logic that is less expensive when it comes to the monsters. I want there to be able to be a ridiculous number of monsters in existence at once. There is a practical limit. If they spill too far off the sides of the screen, they will just get culled right away. But I think that's ultimately okay. There is, again, a practical limit to the number of things that are relevant to the game. So we'll start with the idea, we're going to need to start working on the idea of how do we get a non-Godot physics collision-based kind of collision handling for monsters. And we'll go from there. Because I think we can avoid the default collision detection logic if we do this right. We'll have to see. But thanks everybody for joining me. Sorry if it got quiet and dull there at the end. Sometimes when it gets engrossing enough, there's a point at which you need to kind of stop and step away from what you're doing and reconsider it. Like, what's going on? How we doing? You know, how we doing this? And figure out from there. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Distracted again. All right, though, folks. Thanks again for joining me. Next streams will be happening on Friday. We're going to continue the pattern of game earlier in the day and then coding later in the day. So I hope to see you then. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.